The wallet felt expensive. Soft leather, warm from someone's pocket. Emma opened it to find a business card, something to return it properly. Instead, her small fingers froze. A photograph, worn at the edges. A woman laughing in summer light. Her mother. Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. She knew that smile. She saw it every morning across the breakfast table. But this photo was old. Her mother looked younger, happier, like someone Emma had never met. "Excuse me, little one?" A man's voice, deep, polished. Emma looked up, tall, gray suit, a watch that caught the light like trapped stars, but his eyes blue, the exact shade she saw in her own mirror. "That's my wallet," he said, reaching down. Emma couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The cafe door chimed behind her. "Emma, I got your hot chocolate." Her mother's voice died mid-sentence. The bag slipped from Sarah's hands. Glass shattered across the floor. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. 3 seconds of absolute silence. Then chaos. Sarah lunged forward, grabbing Emma's arm, pulling her daughter behind her like shielding her from a bullet. Her chest heaved. Her knuckles went white around Emma's wrist. Michael stood frozen, his hand still extended for the wallet. His eyes moved from Sarah's face to Emma's, then back again. Something was calculating behind those blue irises. 6 years. A child who looked exactly 6 years old. "Sarah." His voice cracked on her name. "Don't." The word came out like breaking glass. "Don't you dare." Customers were staring now. A barista paused mid-pour. Someone's phone was already raised, recording. Probably. Sarah felt the walls closing in, felt the weight of strangers' curiosity pressing against her skull. She needed air. She needed to run. "Mommy." Emma's small voice cut through the noise. "Why do you look scared?" Sarah didn't answer. She was already moving, dragging Emma toward the door, stepping over the shattered mess of their spilled drinks. Chocolate pooled across white tiles like something bleeding out. "Sarah, wait." Michael started after them. "Stay away from us." She burst onto the sidewalk. October wind slapped her face. A bus was approaching 30 seconds away, maybe less. She pulled Emma faster, ignoring her daughter's confused protests, ignoring the expensive footsteps pursuing them on concrete. "Please, just let me explain." The bus doors hissed open. Sarah pushed Emma up the steps, fumbled for her transit card, didn't look back. The doors closed with Michael's palm flat against the glass, his breath fogging a small circle, his mouth forming words that she couldn't hear. The bus pulled away. Sarah collapsed into a seat. Emma pressed against her side. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her phone buzzed unknown number. She knew who it was. She didn't answer. "Mommy." Emma's voice was smaller now. "Careful. That man had your picture." Sarah stared straight ahead. "He had your picture in his wallet, and his eyes looked like mine." The phone kept buzzing. Emma tugged her mother's sleeve, forcing Sarah to meet her daughter's gaze, those blue eyes, his blue eyes, demanding truth. "Mommy, is that man my daddy?" The bus rattled on. Sarah had no air left to answer. The apartment smelled like mildew and yesterday's soup. Sarah locked the door behind them. Then the deadbolt. Then the chain. Her fingers fumbled 3 times before the chain caught. Emma stood in the middle of their cramped living room, still clutching Michael's wallet, still holding that photograph. "Give me that." Sarah's voice came out harsher than intended. Emma handed it over without protest. Her eyes, those terrible, familiar eyes, tracked her mother's every movement. Sarah shoved the wallet into a kitchen drawer, slamming it shut like containing something poisonous. Her hands found the counter's edge, gripping until her knuckles ached. The phone in her pocket buzzed again. Fourth time. Fifth. She turned it off. Mommy. Bed. Now. But I'm not Emma. Please. Sarah's voice cracked. She never said please like that. Never sounded so close to breaking. Emma retreated to her bedroom, a space barely larger than a closet. Walls covered in her own drawings. Crayon families smiled down from every surface. 2 figures in most of them. Always just 2. Sarah waited until she heard the bed springs creak. Then she slid down the cabinet door, sitting on cold linoleum, and pressed both palms against her eyes until she saw stars. 11 o'clock. Emma's breathing had finally steadied into sleep. Sarah pulled a tin box from behind the cleaning supplies, a hiding spot Emma didn't know about. Inside 3 photographs, a letter never sent, and an empty ring box. The ring itself was gone, pawned 2 winters ago when Emma needed antibiotics they couldn't afford. She spread the photographs across her lap. Michael at 28, laughing at something she'd said. Michael sleeping in their tiny studio apartment, morning light catching the stubble on his jaw. Michael and Sarah together, her head on his shoulder. Both of them young and stupid and certain about forever. Sarah traced his face with 1 finger. 6 years. She'd built an entire life in his absence, worked double shifts, learned to unclog drains and fix radiators, and stretched $20 across a week. Learned to answer Emma's questions about fathers with half-truths that tasted like ash. And now he was back. Rich, polished, still carrying her photograph like she meant something. Sarah crumpled forward, forehead touching her knees, and let herself shake. 14 miles away. Michael Thompson stood at floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Boston glitter 45 stories below. His penthouse was immaculate. 4,000 square feet of Italian marble, designer furniture, and silence so complete it rang in his ears. A chef-prepared dinner sat untouched on the counter. The television hadn't been turned on in months. He held his phone, scrolling through a private investigator's report for the 100th time. Sarah Mitchell, age 32, single mother, 1 daughter, age 6. Currently employed morning shift at Rosie's Diner, evening shift at Clean Pro Janitorial Services, residence 4B Maple Street, Somerville, outstanding debt $47,000. Michael's thumb hovered over a photograph in the file. Emma, caught by a telephoto lens outside her school, laughing at something, wearing sneakers with holes near the toes. His daughter had holes in her shoes. He set the phone down carefully, like it might detonate. Then he walked to his bedroom, opened the top drawer of his nightstand, and pulled out an envelope. His father's handwriting, dated 6 years ago. This is your future, Michael. That girl is not. He'd torn up the check his father offered. $500,000 to walk away. He'd refused the money, told himself that made him noble. But he'd still walked away. Michael pressed the heels of his palms against his temples. The math kept running through his head. Emma was 6. He left 6 years and 3 months ago. Sarah must have been pregnant when his stomach turned. He needed to explain, needed to tell Sarah that he didn't know. That he'd tried to call 6 months later, but some woman answered and said Sarah had moved, said she didn't want contact. He'd believed it. God help him. He'd believed it and let himself be relieved. The city lights blurred through the window. Michael couldn't remember the last time he'd cried. Couldn't remember if he still knew how. Morning came gray and cold. A knock at Sarah's door, not demanding, just patient. 3 soft raps. Sarah opened it to find Eleanor Price holding a casserole dish. 72 years old, white hair pinned back, eyes that missed nothing. "You look like death warmed over," Eleanor said. "Emma's not sick again." "No, she's—" Sarah stepped aside, letting her neighbor in. "She's fine. Something happened yesterday." Eleanor set the casserole on the counter and turned with her arms crossed, waiting. So Sarah told her all of it. The cafe, the wallet, the photograph, those blue eyes meeting blue eyes. Eleanor listened without interrupting. When Sarah finished, the old woman was quiet for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Lying to that child won't work forever." Eleanor's voice was gentle but firm. "Truth's like weeds, honey. Can't bury it. Always finds its way up." Before Sarah could respond, her phone buzzed, a notification from her banking app. She frowned, opening it. "Deposit $50,000. Sender anonymous." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She knew exactly who had sent it, and she knew exactly what it meant. Michael thought he could buy his way back into their lives. Her jaw tightened. She grabbed her coat. "Eleanor, can you watch Emma for a few hours?" "Where are you going?" Sarah was already halfway out the door, fists clenched, heart pounding. To return his money. Personally. The Thompson Enterprises building rose 45 stories against the Boston skyline. Sarah stood at its base, looking up, feeling very small. Then she walked inside. The executive floor smelled like money and fresh lilies. Sarah stepped off the elevator, her worn sneakers silent against marble that probably cost more than her annual salary. A receptionist looked up, blonde, immaculate, eyes sharp as surgical tools. "Can I help you?" "Michael Thompson. Tell him Sarah Mitchell is here." The woman's expression flickered. Recognition? Something darker beneath it. "Mr. Thompson is in a meeting. He'll want to see me." A long pause. Then the receptionist lifted her phone, murmured something too quiet to hear, and gestured toward heavy oak doors. "He's expecting you." Sarah pushed through. Michael stood behind a desk the size of her kitchen table. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed him against the Boston skyline. He looked exhausted, tie loosened, shadows beneath his eyes. Sarah threw the check onto his desk. $50,000, crumpled from her grip. "I don't want your money." Michael didn't touch it. "I was trying to help." "Help." The word tasted like poison. 6 years of nothing, and you think you can write a check? "I didn't know." "Sarah." His voice cracked. "About Emma. I swear to God. I didn't know. You left. You disappeared. You never once." "I called." Michael stepped around the desk. Closer, but not touching. 6 months after I left, I called your old number. A woman answered. Said you'd moved on. Said you didn't want to hear from me. Sarah went still. "That's impossible. There was no one who would have." Someone answered that phone. "Sarah. Someone told me to stay away." The room tilted. Sarah reached for the desk's edge, steadying herself. She'd had the same number for 2 years after he left. Never changed it. Never stopped hoping it would ring. "Who?" she whispered. Who answered, I don't know. I assumed it was a friend, a roommate, someone protecting you from me. Michael's jaw tightened. I believed her. I shouldn't have. But I did. Silence stretched between them. Sarah looked at this man, older now. Successful. Carrying her photograph for 6 years like a wound that wouldn't heal. She wanted to hate him. Part of her still did. But another part, the part that remembered his laugh and his warmth and the way he used to say her name like a prayer, that part was listening. What do you want, Michael? To meet her? His voice was barely audible. Not as her father. Not yet. Just as someone. A friend of yours. I'll go as slow as you need. I'll follow whatever rules you set. He paused. I just want to know my daughter. Sarah closed her eyes. Emma's face swam through her memory. All those drawings with only 2 figures. All those questions about fathers that Sarah deflected with lies. One meeting, she said finally. Public place, I'll be watching the entire time. One wrong move and you're gone forever. Michael nodded, not trusting his voice. Boston Common blazed with October color. Emma sat on a bench beside Michael, her sketchbook open between them. Sarah watched from 30 feet away, pretending to read a book she hadn't turned a page in. What are you drawing? Michael asked. His voice was careful, uncertain, nothing like the commanding tone he used in boardrooms. Trees. Emma didn't look up. I like how the leaves look like fire. You're very good. I know. No arrogance, just fact. Mommy says I got talent from someone, but she won't say who. Michael's throat tightened. He watched Emma's small hand move across the paper, confident strokes, natural shading. His mother had drawn like that. Before cancer took her when Michael was 12. I used to draw, he said quietly. A long time ago. Emma looked up. Why'd you stop? Because my father said artists starve. Because I learned to worship money instead. I forgot how. Michael said. Emma considered this. Then she tore a page from her sketchbook and slid it toward him, along with a crayon. I can teach you. Start with a circle. Something cracked open in Michael's chest. The weeks that followed were careful. Fragile things. Saturday mornings became theirs. Michael learned that Emma liked purple, hated carrots, and believed the moon was made of vanilla ice cream. He learned she was afraid of thunder and wanted to be an artist and had never owned a bicycle. He burned 4 batches of pancakes before producing one. Emma declared, okay. He watched 17 YouTube tutorials on braiding hair. He started canceling meetings. Sarah watched all of it. The awkward attempts, the genuine effort, the way Michael looked at Emma like she was the first real thing he'd seen in years. She felt her walls developing hairline cracks. Maybe. Just maybe. Then the email arrived. Victoria Hayes, Michael's assistant, sent it at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Subject information regarding Sarah Mitchell. Michael opened it, expecting scheduling details, expense reports. Instead, he found a private investigator's dossier. Bank records, photographs. A name circled in red, unknown male benefactor, significant financial support. 2019 to 2021. A handwritten note from Victoria, she's not what she seems. The child may not be yours. Michael stared at the screen. His phone showed 3 missed calls from Sarah. She'd sent a photo of Emma's latest drawing, 3 figures holding hands beneath a purple sun. He looked at the email, looked at the drawing. His hand hovered over the reply button. Michael called Sarah at 7 in the morning. "We need to talk. My office. Now." His voice was ice. No warmth, no hesitation. The same voice he used to fire executives. Sarah's stomach dropped. She found him standing behind his desk, arms crossed, jaw set like granite. The email was projected onto a screen behind him. Bank statements, photographs, red circles around deposits she'd never seen before. "Explain this." Sarah stared at the screen. "What am I looking at?" 2 years of payments, large sums, from an unidentified mail source. Michael's voice was deadly calm. "Who was he?" "Sarah, who was supporting you while you let me believe you were struggling. I never received. Don't lie to me." The calm cracked. Was Emma even mine? Or was this some kind of long game? Waiting until I was rich enough to stop? Sarah's voice cut through like a blade. "Stop right there." She stepped closer to the screen, studying the documents. The deposits were real, $2,000 here, $3,500 there, but she'd never seen them, never received them. Then she saw the account number. "This isn't my bank account." Michael faltered. "What? Look." She pointed. "My account ends in 7743. This one ends in 7734. Someone created a shadow account. Someone fabricated this entire file." The color drained from Michael's face. "Who sent you this?" Sarah demanded. Michael's jaw worked. "Victoria, my assistant." Sarah went very still. Victoria. The blonde receptionist with surgical eyes. The woman who'd looked at Sarah like she was dirt tracked onto clean marble. "How long has she worked for you?" 8 years. Since before." Michael stopped. His expression shifted as pieces began connecting. "Since before I left Boston." Sarah's mind raced backward. 6 years ago. Michael's phone call. A woman who answered, who said Sarah had moved on. "Describe her voice." "What?" "Victoria's voice. Describe it." "I don't smooth, I suppose." "Professional. A little husky." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She remembered that call, remembered picking up, hearing Michael's voice, her heart exploding with hope. No. Wait. She never received that call. Michael said someone else answered. But Sarah lived alone. Unless someone intercepted it. Unless someone had access to her phone, her apartment, her life. "The super?" Sarah whispered. "What?" "My building superintendent. 6 years ago. A woman named Vicky. She had keys to every apartment. She was friendly, always checking on me." Sarah's hands began shaking. "She said she worked a second job downtown. Executive assistant. She said..." I didn't think. Michael grabbed his phone, pulling up personnel files. Victoria Hayes. Employee photo. He turned the screen toward Sarah. The face staring back was older now, more polished. But the eyes were the same woman who'd brought Sarah soup when she was sick. The same woman who'd offered to grab Sarah's mail, answer her phone, watch her apartment. The same woman who'd been slowly, methodically destroying Sarah's life. It was her. Sarah breathed. "She answered your call. She told you I'd moved on. Sarah's voice broke. "She knew I was pregnant. She knew, and she let you leave anyway." Michael looked like he'd been shot. Victoria wasn't at her desk. Michael found her in the break room. pouring coffee like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just detonated a bomb. "Victoria," she turned with a pleasant smile. "Good morning, Mr. Tump." "You knew." The smile faltered. 6 years ago, you answered Sarah's phone. You told me she didn't want me." Michael stepped closer, voice dropping to something dangerous. "You knew she was pregnant with my child, and you lied to both of us." Victoria's mask cracked. Beneath it was something ugly desperation and jealousy twisted together. "She wasn't right for you." Victoria's voice turned shrill. "Some waitress from nowhere, you were destined for more. I was helping you. Helping me. I loved you." The words exploded out. 8 years I've been by your side. 8 years watching you succeed, knowing I was the one who made it possible. And you never once looked at me the way you looked at her photograph. Sarah had followed. She stood in the doorway now, hearing everything. "You stole 6 years from my daughter." Sarah's voice was quiet, lethal. 6 years without a father, because you were jealous. Victoria's face contorted. "You don't deserve him. You never did." Security arrived within minutes. Victoria was escorted out, screaming accusations, threatening lawsuits. But just before the elevator doors closed, she locked eyes with Michael. "Ask about your father's will." She spat. "Ask about the sealed amendment. You think I'm the only one who wanted her gone." The doors closed. Silence. Michael stood frozen. His father had died 2 years ago. The will had been straightforward, everything to Michael. Nothing complicated. But a sealed amendment. He called his family lawyer within the hour. "James, the Thompson estate. Was there anything else? Anything my father kept separate?" A long pause. "There's a codicil?" "Michael. Sealed, per your father's instructions. Only to be opened under specific conditions." "What conditions?" "When you found the woman you left behind, or when you discovered you had a child." Michael's world tilted. "My father knew. He knew everything." "Michael. He had her followed for years. There's a letter. Instructions regarding the child." Sarah watched Michael's face go white. "What does it say?" "I can't open it without you present. Both of you." The lawyer paused. "Bring the mother. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Michael hung up. Sarah stood across the room, arms wrapped around herself, looking as hollowed out as he felt. Trust rebuilt over weeks had shattered in hours. Victoria's poison was still seeping through everything. And now his dead father had secrets about their daughter. "Michael." Sarah's voice was barely audible. "What did your father do?" He didn't have an answer. His phone buzzed. Eleanor's number. He answered. "Michael." The old woman's voice was strained. "You need to come home. Now." "What's wrong?" "It's Emma. She's burning up. Sarah's not answering her phone. I'm taking her to the emergency room." The line went dead. Boston Children's Hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Sarah burst through the emergency room doors, still wearing the clothes from Michael's office. Eleanor met her in the waiting area, face gray with worry. They took her back 20 minutes ago. Fever hit 104. She was having trouble breathing. Sarah's legs nearly buckled. A nurse appeared, clipboard in hand. "Emma Mitchell's mother." Yes, I'm here. What's happening?" "Your daughter has severe pneumonia. We're stabilizing her now. But she'll need to be admitted. At least 5 days, possibly more. The nurse's voice was professional. Kind. The doctor will update you soon. Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. The nurse disappeared behind swinging doors. 5 days. Minimum. Eleanor guided Sarah to a plastic chair. The waiting room was nearly empty. 2:47 a.m., the hour when bad news lived. A television mounted on the wall played muted infomercials. Someone's coffee sat abandoned, gone cold. Sarah stared at the doors where her daughter had vanished. 4 hours later, a doctor emerged. She's stable. The antibiotics are working, but we need to monitor her closely. There may be complications we haven't identified yet. He paused. Has Emma had respiratory issues before? She was premature. Sarah's voice sounded foreign to her own ears. Born at 32 weeks. Her lungs were underdeveloped. The doctor nodded, making notes. We'll run additional tests. The billing office will contact you about payment arrangements. Payment. Sarah felt the word land like a hammer. The billing office was a small room with fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. A woman with tired eyes typed Sarah's information into a computer. Clicked, scrolled, clicked again. Your insurance covers basic hospitalization, but the specialist consultations, extended monitoring, and tests fall outside your plan. She printed a sheet, sliding it across the desk. Estimated total $18,000. We require a $5,000 deposit before treatment continues. Sarah looked at the number, then at her phone, where her banking app showed $847.32. Her throat closed. I don't have that. Payment plans are available with approved credit. My credit? Sarah stopped. $47,000 in existing debt. A credit score that had been destroyed years ago. There has to be another option. The woman's expression softened, but her answer didn't change. I'm sorry. Those are the policies. Sarah found the bathroom at the end of the hall. She locked the door, pressed her back against cold tile, slid down until she hit the floor. Her hands were shaking. Had been shaking for hours. She looked at them, calluses from scrubbing, scars from kitchen burns, nails bitten to nothing. These hands had held Emma minutes after birth, had worked double shifts to keep food on the table, had never once asked anyone for help, and now they couldn't do anything. A sound escaped her throat. Half sob, half scream, muffled by her own palms pressed against her mouth. She thought about the ring. Michael's ring. The one she'd kept hidden for 6 years. The only piece of him she'd allowed herself to hold on to. She'd pawned it once before Emma's first hospitalization, right after birth, got $800. Bought it back a year later for $1, $200 money she couldn't afford. If she pawned it now, it would be gone forever. Sarah pulled out her phone, dialed Michael's number. It rang. Rang again. Voicemail. She tried twice more. Nothing. Of course. He probably hated her now. Probably believed Victoria's lies despite the evidence. Probably decided she wasn't worth the trouble. She was alone. Like always. The pawn shop opened at 6 a.m. Sarah stood outside in the gray morning light, watching a man unlock the door. The ring sat heavy in her pocket. Inside, the shop smelled like dust and broken promises. A man behind bulletproof glass examined the ring through a loop. Diamond's decent. Setting's old. I can give you $3,000. Sarah nodded. Couldn't speak. She walked out with cash in an envelope and an empty space where the ring had been. $3,000 wouldn't cover the deposit. Wouldn't cover anything, really. But it might buy Emma's medicine. Might buy another day. Eleanor found her in the hospital chapel. Sarah wasn't religious, hadn't prayed since childhood. But she was sitting in a pew, staring at stained glass, when Eleanor slid in beside her. "I called him," Eleanor said. Sarah's head snapped up. "What?" "Michael. I left a message. Told him Emma was here." Eleanor's weathered hand covered Sarah's. "That man has a right to know his daughter is sick, and you have a right to not carry this alone. He didn't answer when I called. Then he'll answer when he checks his voicemail. And if he doesn't show up, we'll know exactly what he's made of." Eleanor squeezed her hand. "But if he does show up, let him help. Pride won't pay those bills." Sarah wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle it, but she couldn't. Not anymore. Michael got Eleanor's message at 6:23 a.m. He'd been at Massachusetts General all night, cardiac testing, blood work, scans. His phone had been locked in a hospital locker per protocol. Emma's in the hospital, Boston Children's. Come now. He didn't remember the drive, didn't remember parking, didn't remember running through corridors asking for directions. He just remembered turning a corner on the 4th floor and stopping dead. Sarah sat on the hallway floor, back against the wall, knees pulled to her chest. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Beside her, an envelope had spilled open cash, maybe $3,000, and on her left hand, where he'd looked so many times hoping to see his ring, nothing. Just pale skin where a band should have been. She'd sold it. For their daughter. Michael's vision blurred. He walked toward her slowly. She didn't hear him until his shadow fell across her lap. She looked up. Mascara streaked, eyes swollen. Every wall she'd ever built completely demolished. "Michael." His name came out broken. "She's so sick. And I don't have..." He dropped to his knees beside her. "I'm here." His voice cracked. "I'm here now." Sarah stared at him for one long moment. Then something inside her finally shattered. She collapsed against his chest, 6 years of strength dissolving into sobs. And Michael held her on that hospital floor while the sun rose pale through distant windows. Neither of them noticed the doctor approaching. Neither of them saw the look on his face. "Mr. Thompson." The doctor cleared his throat. "We need to discuss your daughter's test results. There's something else. Something we didn't expect." The doctor's words hung in the sterile air. "Emma's pneumonia is responding to treatment. She'll recover fully." He paused, consulting his clipboard. "But during our tests, we discovered something else. A heart murmur. Minor. Likely congenital. It explains some of the respiratory weakness she's experienced." Sarah gripped Michael's arm. "Is it dangerous?" "Manageable. With proper monitoring and care. She'll live a completely normal life." The doctor offered a small smile. "Your daughter is a fighter." When he left, Sarah exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. Michael was already on his phone. Within 6 hours, everything changed. Sarah didn't see Michael make the calls, didn't hear the conversations. She only saw the results. Emma was moved to a private room with windows overlooking the park. A pediatric cardiologist, the best in Boston, arrived for a personal consultation. A child life specialist brought art supplies, coloring books, stuffed animals. When Sarah went to the billing office to discuss payment plans, the woman with tired eyes looked confused. "The account is settled. Paid in full this morning." Sarah's jaw tightened. But when she found Michael in Emma's room, reading picture books in terrible funny voices, while their daughter giggled weakly, the anger wouldn't come. He hadn't asked permission, he'd just acted. Maybe that was enough for now. Emma slept more than she woke those first 2 days. Michael never left. He dozed in the uncomfortable chair beside her bed, woke whenever monitors beeped, learned the nurses' names and schedules. He fetched coffee for Sarah at 3 a.m., held doors, said nothing about the money. On the third morning, Sarah found a small velvet box on her bedside table. Inside was her ring. No note, no explanation. Just the diamond she'd surrendered, returned without fanfare. She didn't put it on, but she slipped it into her pocket, close to her heart, and felt something tight in her chest begin to loosen. Eleanor arrived with homemade soup and hard truths. "That man hasn't slept in 72 hours, she said, nodding toward Michael, who'd finally passed out in the hallway chair. "Hasn't eaten anything but vending machine crackers, canceled a board meeting worth millions to sit here and read Good Night Moon 14 times. Sarah stirred her soup without eating. "I know." "Do you?" Eleanor's voice sharpened. "Because I've watched you build walls for 6 years, honey. Good walls, strong walls. Kept you and Emma safe." She reached across, lifting Sarah's chin. "But walls don't just keep bad things out. They keep good things out too. He left me. Eleanor. He was lied to. By a woman who spent 8 years manipulating him." Eleanor sat back. "I'm not saying forget. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. But that man out there, he's not running. He's not writing checks and walking away. He's here. Present. Trying." Sarah looked through the doorway at Michael's sleeping form. Stubble covered his jaw. His expensive suit was wrinkled beyond repair. He looked nothing like a billionaire. He looked like a father keeping vigil. "Actions speak louder than words," Eleanor said softly. And right now, his actions are screaming. Day 4, Emma woke up hungry. "Daddy." The word slipped out like she'd been saying it forever. "Can I have pancakes?" Michael froze. Sarah froze. Even Eleanor, sitting in the corner with her knitting, went still. Emma didn't notice. She was already reaching for her sketchbook, already planning what to draw next. Michael looked at Sarah, eyes asking permission. She nodded. He cleared his throat. "I'll find you the best pancakes in Boston. You could make them." Emma's voice was still weak but stubborn. "Mommy says homemade is better. I'll burn them. That's okay. We can practice?" Something passed across Michael's face. Wonder, fear, hope tangled together. He glanced at Sarah again. "Kitchen's down the hall," she said quietly. "Nurses might have a griddle." He was gone before she finished speaking. The pancakes were terrible. Burnt edges, raw centers, misshapen lumps that looked like abstract art. But Emma ate 3 of them, declaring each one the best ever, and Michael smiled like he'd won an award. Sarah watched from the doorway. This was real. Not purchased, not performed. Just a father learning to care for his daughter. One ruined pancake at a time. Day 5. Discharge day. Emma was wrapped in a blanket Michael had bought purple, her favorite color, and carried to a car that wasn't a limousine, just a normal sedan. Michael had rented it specifically because Emma mentioned she'd never ridden in a fancy car and didn't want to start. He was listening, paying attention to small things. Sarah buckled Emma into the back seat and paused. "Where are we going?" Emma asked. Sarah looked at Michael. They hadn't discussed this. Her apartment was still facing eviction. His penthouse felt wrong. "I have a place," Michael said carefully. "Not my penthouse. A small apartment in Cambridge. 2 bedrooms. I rented it last week." He hesitated. "Just until you're back on your feet. No strings. No expectations." Sarah should have argued. Should have insisted on independence. But Emma was tired and sick and needed stability, and Sarah was so exhausted that the thought of fighting felt impossible. "Okay," she whispered. For now. The apartment was modest, clean, warm. Emma fell asleep within minutes of arriving. Michael covered her with a second blanket, stood watching her breathe for a long moment, then retreated to the kitchen. Sarah found him there, holding his phone, face pale. "What is it?" "The lawyer. My father's estate." Michael looked up. "The sealed document. We're scheduled to open it tomorrow." Sarah remembered Victoria's words. "Ask about your father's will." "What do you think it says?" Michael shook his head slowly. "I don't know. But whatever it is, we face it together." He set down the phone. "No more secrets, no more surprises, I promise." Outside, Boston settled into evening. Emma breathed peacefully in the other room. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest storm was still coming. The law office smelled like old leather and expensive secrets. Sarah sat beside Michael in chairs that cost more than her monthly rent. Across the mahogany desk, James Harrison, 70 years old. Silver-haired, eyes carrying decades of confidential knowledge, placed a sealed envelope between them. "Before I open this, you should understand something." Harrison's voice was measured. Robert Thompson was not a simple man. He made decisions that affected many lives. Some of those decisions he regretted deeply. Michael's jaw tightened. "Just open it." Harrison nodded, slid a letter opener through aged paper. Inside were 3 documents, a letter, a deed, and a trust amendment. Harrison read the letter aloud. "My son, if you're reading this, you found her. The woman I drove away. The child I pretended didn't exist. I want you to understand why. Not to excuse myself, there is no excuse, but so you know the full truth. When you were 28, I hired investigators to assess Sarah Mitchell. I told myself it was protection, a father ensuring his son's future. What I found was a young woman from nothing. No wealth, no connections, no pedigree. Everything I believed disqualified her from our world. I threatened your startup. Told you I'd destroy everything you'd built if you didn't leave her. You refused my money, and I respected that. But you still left. Because I made you believe you had no choice. What I didn't tell you, I continued watching her. I saw her discover she was pregnant. Saw her work 3 jobs to survive. Saw her give birth alone, 2 months early, to a daughter she named Emma. I saw that child grow, saw her drawings, her smile, the way she looked exactly like your mother. Your mother. Michael. The only woman I ever truly loved. Dead at 42. Leaving me hollow. I built an empire to fill that emptiness. And I nearly destroyed you, trying to protect you from the same fate. But watching Emma, watching your daughter become an artist like her grandmother, I realized I hadn't protected you. I'd stolen from you. Stolen a family. Stolen 6 years you can never recover. I am dying as I write this. Pancreatic cancer. 3 months, perhaps less. Not enough time to fix what I broke, but enough to try. The documents enclosed are my attempt at atonement. Tell Sarah I'm sorry. Tell Emma her grandfather loved her from afar, and Michael be the father I never was. Robert James Thompson. Silence filled the room. Michael sat motionless, the letter trembling in his hands. Sarah watched his face cycle through shock, grief, rage, and something that looked like fractured relief. His father had known. For 6 years, had watched Emma grow up in poverty while sitting on billions, had let Sarah struggle alone while holding the power to help. And yet, he'd also carried the guilt, had tracked every moment, had loved Emma from a distance, too proud or too broken to intervene. It didn't forgive anything, but it explained everything. Harrison cleared his throat. The remaining documents. He slid the deed across the desk. This property in Brookline, the house where Robert and his wife lived when they first married. He's left it to Sarah Mitchell directly. No conditions, full ownership. Sarah's breath caught. A house, an actual house. And this, Harrison presented the trust amendment. A fund of $30 million, established for Emma Thompson, accessible for education, health care, and artistic pursuits, managed until she turns 25. He paused. There is one condition. Michael looked up. What condition? You must demonstrate an active parental relationship with Emma for 2 consecutive years, verified by quarterly reports from a family counselor. Harrison removed his glasses. Your father wanted to ensure you earned this, that you didn't simply write checks and disappear as he feared you might. 2 years of proving himself, of showing up, of being present. Michael almost laughed. He would have done it for free, would have done it forever. I accept, he said. They walked through Boston Common afterward, autumn leaves crunching beneath their feet. Neither spoke for a long time. The weight of Robert's letter sat between them, a ghost, finely given voice. I don't know how to feel, Michael finally said. He destroyed us. But he tried to fix it, in his own broken way. Sarah watched children playing on distant swings. My mother used to say that people are like icebergs. You only see what's above the water. The rest, the reasons, the fears, the regrets, stays hidden until it's too late. Do you think he suffered? I think he watched his granddaughter grow up through photographs and reports. I think he saw her drawings and recognized his wife in every line. Sarah stopped walking. I think that's its own kind of hell. Michael turned to face her. I'm not him. Sarah, I won't watch from a distance. I won't let pride or fear keep me from Emma. His voice cracked. Or from you. Sarah studied his face. The exhaustion, the sincerity, the desperate hope he was trying to contain. I know, she whispered. That evening, they sat Emma down in the Cambridge apartment. The little girl looked between them with knowing eyes, too knowing for 6 years old. Emma, Sarah began carefully. You know how you asked about your daddy, about the man in the cafe with the photograph? Emma nodded. Her small hand found Michael's. Michael he's your father, sweetheart. Your real father. He didn't know about you before, but now he does. And he wants to be part of your life. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she looked up at Michael with those blue eyes, his mother's eyes. "I know," she said simply. Michael blinked. "You know, I figured it out. At the hospital. You looked at me the way Tommy's dad looks at Tommy. Like I'm the most important thing." She squeezed his hand. "Can I call you Daddy now? I've been practicing in my head." Michael couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Tears spilled down his cheeks as he pulled Emma into his arms, holding her like she might disappear. "Yes," he managed. "Yes, you can call me Daddy." Sarah watched them, father and daughter, finally united, and felt something ancient begin to heal. Later, after Emma slept, Michael stepped onto the balcony. His phone had been buzzing for hours. He'd ignored it, wanting to stay present. But now, in the quiet darkness, he finally checked. 14 missed calls from Massachusetts General, 1 voicemail. He pressed play. "Mr. Thompson, this is Dr. Patterson. Your latest cardiac results are concerning. The arterial blockage has progressed faster than anticipated. We need to schedule surgery within the next 6 weeks." A pause. "I won't minimize this. The procedure carries significant risk. Please call immediately." Michael lowered the phone. Through the glass door, he could see Sarah washing dishes, humming softly. Beyond her, Emma's bedroom door stood slightly open, purple nightlight glowing within. His family. Finally his. And he might not live to keep them. Michael told Sarah that night. No secrets, no hiding. He sat her down after Emma fell asleep and explained everything: the diagnosis, the surgery, the risks. 65% survival rate. 6 weeks to prepare. Sarah listened without interrupting. When he finished, she took his hand. "Then we have 6 weeks to make count," she said. "And after surgery, we have the rest of our lives." "Not you. We." Michael held onto that word like a lifeline. The surgery was scheduled for December 12th. Those 6 weeks became the fullest of Michael's life. He stepped back from Thompson Enterprises entirely, appointing a trusted CEO to manage operations. The board protested. Shareholders grumbled. Michael didn't care. He spent mornings making breakfast pancakes, improved significantly with practice. Afternoons were for Emma's art lessons, where she patiently taught him shading and perspective. Evenings belonged to all 3 of them: board games, movie nights, stories read aloud in funny voices. He memorized everything: Emma's laugh, the way Sarah hummed while cooking, the creak of the Brookline house settling at night. They'd moved in 2 weeks after the lawyers' meeting. He cataloged each moment like photographs he might need to carry into darkness. The night before surgery, Emma gave him a drawing: 3 figures holding hands beneath a purple sun. But this time, there was a 4th figure, a woman with angel wings watching from above. "That's Grandma," Emma explained. "Your mommy. She's going to help the doctors tomorrow." Michael couldn't speak. He held his daughter until she fell asleep in his arms. December 12th, Massachusetts General Hospital. Sarah sat in the surgical waiting room for 9 hours, Eleanor beside her, knitting needles clicking steadily. Emma at school, protected from the worst of the worry. At 4:47 p.m., Dr. Patterson emerged. "He's stable. Surgery was successful." Sarah's legs gave out. Eleanor caught her. "Full recovery will take months," the doctor continued. "But the blockage is cleared. With proper care, he should live a long, healthy life." Should. Not will. Medicine never promised certainties. But Sarah would take should. She would take every uncertain day and fill it with meaning. Recovery was slow and frustrating. Michael, accustomed to controlling everything, had to surrender to bed rest and physical therapy. He hated the weakness, hated needing help. But Emma read to him every evening, stumbling over big words, making up definitions that were wildly wrong. And Sarah brought meals, adjusted pillows, sat beside him during the long nights when pain made sleep impossible. He learned to accept help, learned that needing others wasn't weakness, learned that this was what family meant. 1 year later, the Brookline house had transformed. Emma's artwork covered every wall, colorful explosions of creativity that made the old Victorian feel alive. The kitchen smelled perpetually of baking. Sarah had discovered a talent for pastries she'd never had time to explore before. Michael's recovery was complete, his heart, both literally and figuratively, stronger than before. He still worked, but differently now. Remote meetings, flexible hours, home by dinner every night. Thompson Enterprises thrived without his constant presence. It turned out the company didn't need a martyr, just competent leadership. Emma started second grade with a new confidence. When classmates asked about her father, she smiled and said, "He makes really bad pancakes. But he's learning." Victoria Hayes disappeared from Boston entirely. Sarah heard through Eleanor's gossip network that she'd moved to Seattle, taken a position at a small firm, started over anonymously. No lawsuit materialized, no revenge. Some people, Sarah realized, destroyed themselves more thoroughly than any punishment could. She chose not to think about Victoria anymore. The woman had stolen 6 years. She wouldn't steal another minute. Eleanor became Grandma Ellie officially. Sunday dinners were mandatory, her rule, non-negotiable. She'd arrive with casseroles and complaints about the neighbors, then spend hours teaching Emma to knit while Michael and Sarah cleaned up. "You know," Eleanor said one evening, watching the three of them through the kitchen doorway, "I lost my son 20 years ago. Thought I'd spend the rest of my days alone." She smiled, eyes glistening. "Turns out, family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's just people who choose each other." Sarah hugged her tight. Spring arrived soft and warm. Emma's 7th birthday party filled the backyard with children, laughter, balloons. Michael manned the grill badly while Sarah directed games and Eleanor distributed cake. The present Emma wanted most wasn't wrapped. "I want everyone to stay," she announced. "Forever. That's my wish." Michael knelt beside her. "That's not how wishes work, sweetheart." "Then I'll wish it every year until it comes true." He pulled her into a hug, meeting Sarah's eyes over their daughter's head. Some wishes, it turned out, did come true, not through magic, through choice, through showing up, day after day, even when it was hard. That evening, after guests left and Emma slept, Michael and Sarah sat on the porch swing. Stars scattered across the Massachusetts sky. Crickets sang in the garden. The purple bicycle Emma had finally received leaned against the oak tree. "I never thought I'd have this," Michael said quietly. "Have what?" "Peace." He took Sarah's hand. "Home." Sarah leaned her head against his shoulder. The ring was back on her finger not because he'd asked, but because she'd chosen, because she was ready. "Home isn't a place," she murmured. "I know." Michael pressed a kiss to her hair. "Home is where you're loved." Inside, Emma dreamed of purple suns and families holding hands. Outside, two people who'd lost each other once sat in comfortable silence, grateful for second chances, for stubborn hope, for the ordinary miracle of being together. Not perfect, not easy, but finally, completely home. This story began with a photograph in a stranger's wallet and ended with a family choosing each other every single day. Between those moments lived 6 years of silence, heartbreak, and the kind of loneliness that hollows you from the inside. Sarah carried that weight alone. Michael carried guilt he didn't even know he should feel. And Emma drew families with missing faces, waiting for someone to fill the empty space. Maybe you know that weight. Maybe you've been the one left behind, building a life from broken pieces. Maybe you've been the one who left, haunted by roads not taken. Or maybe you're the child who grew up with questions no one would answer. Second chances don't erase the past. They don't undo the hurt or return stolen years. But they offer something precious, the possibility of tomorrow being different than yesterday. If this story moved you, leave a comment below. Tell me, do you believe in second chances? Have you ever forgiven someone you thought you never could? Or are you still waiting for someone to come back and fight for you? Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to choose love over pride. Your story matters too.